Today, in the context of understanding the cybersecurity roadmap beyond 2020, we are here to discuss about the latest developments in cybersecurity. Just to give you a brief insight, I'm Manoj Babu. I'm a cybersecurity researcher. I'm doing cybersecurity research on distributed denial of service on blockchain platform. I deliver 35 different modules of cybersecurity, and I carry 18 plus years of experience and information security as well as cybersecurity. So I've been delivering the lectures for a while now, more than a decade. So what I love is sharing the knowledge, whatever I've acquired from this industry, sharing it back to the people and learning from the industry as well. People. So today, in the context of cybersecurity roadmap 2020, we see that till 2019 December, the world was something else, and the cyber soldiers, people in cybersecurity, have been lone rangers who have been putting a relentless efforts in terms of protecting the cyberspace and making it as an possible safe haven to protect cyber threat actors or attackers and cyber criminals. Still, it's still unsafe, and that's where the cybersecurity has got a lot of prominence for a couple of years now. So now, positive note, and by the end of 2019, so we have seen cybersecurity importance has been growing year on year, and that's gone exponentially. And we see that this our society is technology and the kind of communication as the technology that has been grown. You see the ubiquitous communication growth across all corners of the technology, may it be the IoT, may it be cloud-based applications. There are various angles of in a multi-dimensional way. Technology has been growing year on year exponentially, and it has become the topmost priority of most of the organizations. It has become one of the core boardroom discussion points till 2019, how to implement the cybersecurity and how to roll out a proactive, take a proactive approach, cybersecurity approach, in terms of addressing the attacks that are evolving day to day in a new form. So, and one of the research reports said that the cybersecurity market has valued 161 billion, and by the end of 2019, and it is expected to reach close to about 63 billion by 2025, with an cumulative annual growth record of 14.5%. And now today, IoT and you see that bring your own device, so possibly implemented because of work from home situation today, because of Corona. So if you look at the technology evolution, right from 1980s onwards, you see there is an exponential growth in technology. So where we started with a simple voice communication, communicating with between two individuals or the, between the multiple entities, and subsequently we have 2G technology, which has come forward with the messaging, which is the short message service added to it. And subsequently, we have seen a 3G technology, which has come up with the multimedia on the mobile phones. That's where the smartphone era has started. And 4G technology is a revolution now. You see, with 100 Mbps throughput, we use data on the mobile phones, and a lot of multimedia content is being streamed. And now we are heading towards 5G. So along with on a positive note, this is the growth of technology and over the internet, and we see parallelly on a negative notion, the cyber crimes have also grown exponentially, and it is expected to touch 6 trillion annually by end of 2021, and which has been just 3 trillion in 2015. till the end of 2019, it was just these are all identified as some top attack vectors in cybersecurity. Like majority of the attacks used to happen now either on the network side, or if it is on physical side, could be on physical theft or dump diving. On the network side, it is majorly like it could be in direct download, phishing, or a passive monitoring. Or could be in cyber espionage, maybe the timing channel and virtual machine vulnerabilities, sandbox flow, or maybe a spyware or malware and cross-site scripting. These are all the major threat vectors that were identified as serious concerns in security till the end of 2019. And this is a snapshot which explains like it's over 146 billion records are expected to be exposed in form of data breaches uh, between 2018 to 2023. This is at a rate of 20.5 per annum has increased year on year in terms of data breach. The major cause behind this is most of the companies were not cyber ready. So still, the majority of the companies they feel that cybersecurity is a necessary evil because the costs that are involved and the skill gap, maybe the resources unavailability. So what as per the demand and supply. So there is a huge gap because of that. Still, the companies face challenge in terms of implementing the cybersecurity. So it's 73% of the organizations considered that cyber novices are there, and that's a huge gap. And it's 11% is considered to be the cyber experts out of that. And cyber criminals, they don't discriminate whether it's a small company or a big company. So majority of the time, the cyber attacks do happen in markets. Just the idea is to create a chaotic situation. So the 61% of the data breaches, which happened in 2017, were the smaller organizations which are less than 1,000 employees. And the cost of cybersecurity breaches are rising year on year, and this has constantly grown from previous year to this year, almost 6%. So that's the story till 2019. 2019, that's what we learned, and we have been doing okay. Like it was going, it was leading in a positive direction till 2019. 2020 and beyond. So this is what we are at. So there is something which has actually changed from working, the way we look at things, the way we handle things. Coronavirus has created impact in all sides of it. In fact, we have seen a lot of cybersecurity threats is evolved during the season of coronavirus. So it has set me and majority wherever there is a disaster that takes place, especially the natural disasters, so what we call as an act of God. Humankind is proved to be the strongest species that survived in hardest days. So they're the ones who would pass through many of the natural disasters. And now this is more than a natural disaster; it's a wartime. So this is the time where usually, as said by uh, Chronicle, black market and the corruption always flourish during the wartime. So this is something which actually takes the qualified people, the bad actors, usually take the biggest advantage during the time or during this wartime. The biggest challenge right in front of us today, from 2020 to as we move forward to ahead beyond 2020. So can we withhold to this situation? And what kind of an impact do we have? So what all the attacks or what type of threat vectors or attack vectors we have in the situation, and what all the challenges we have faced or we are going to face in future, and how to survive from this, and we hold on to the community and create that cyberspace as a safe haven again. The major attack vectors in this corona era. So these are the stats, Roman, which are cited. These stats are identified uh, for between January to February. You see that the ransomware attacks and phishing attacks are top first and second positions. And then we have spear phishing and remote RAN and remote administration tools are taking over the remote desktop. Or the third place and the vulnerability, the new vulnerabilities or zero day that are identified around 15%, and the databases are 11%. And social engineering, banking, thanks for banking trojans or malvertising or malware spam as pretty low percentage than any other. Sensibly, it is under control. Whereas if you look at it, ransomware and phishing attacks are increased. There's an attacking more. So attack vectors, that was between January to February. February to then now from March to April to take the recent trend and the kind of attacks that have taken place. Most of them are malware spam and phishing, spear phishing, and we have an information stealer, which basically a data breach attack, right? And then RAT, the remote administration tool, the ransomware, and banking tools and vulnerabilities. And this is how the stats are identified between March and April. So if you look at it, this is the biggest time. So earlier it was just you have one organization or you have one workspace where you have 100 people, maybe 1,000 people who are working along with you in the organization, and you have a stock team or maybe a SIM team, and then you have security team and network administrative team who can actually administer, manage, and secure your network. But today, so things have changed. A lot of work from home uh, options. So we inevitably 90% of the organizations today still have their majority of the businesses running on work from home model because of COVID-19 pandemic. So this is a recent insight from MasterClass, which shows an overall threat seen as 85% of the phishing attacks. Why the phishing attacks are increasingly high? It has reached to 85%. So it's 25% as an increase in malicious websites, and 17% is increasing threats from targeting the enterprise users. So the overall increase from January 20 to Feb 20 and March 20 has essentially grown to 30,000 percent high, which is around earlier it was 1,200, and then the phishing attacks were around 10,000 in February 2020, and by March 2020 you have it's almost 380,000. So 380,000 is one the attacks, which is 30,000% high than the previous month. The reason behind it is very simple. Uh, we have something new. So there is some hot topic or a serious discussion happening on something called COVID-19. So the malicious actors started exploiting this situation, this phase, then they started creating an unique campaign, a malicious campaign, luring the people to get connected or to get matched into this trap of phishing them. So because of this, there are a lot of malicious websites. They started creating malicious websites, mimicking the original legitimate website and portraying themselves as an healthcare organization, or could be a legal counselor, could be from an enterprise organization. They started putting up mails, disguised emails, with which basically they are luring most of the computer users. And this is the biggest threat for the enterprises as well. If you look at this particular screen, the screen explains about in Jan 20 with the themes or the kind of suspicious websites that are registered across the globe is 3,243. It's identified as a newly registered suspected domains, new domain names or new website names. In Feb, it has grown to 10,155, and in March, it is 96,743. And it's exponentially started incrementing to the numbers. So then the first week of April itself, it is close to about 20,000 plus. So how exactly the suspicious newly registered domain or domain names would look like? So these domain names look like survivecoronavirus.org. Org, you know that this is an extension that is usually used by the service industry, by a non-profitable industry. So basically, that's what the theme. This is .org. This is often referred as an CLD. It's a top level domain. .com, .org, .cc is considered an CLD, top level domain. So usually this particular TLD or .org is used by a non-profitable organization. So when you use survive coronavirus.org, this is something that's catchy word. So usually people will actually get attracted. It would be vaccine.coronavirus.com, coronavirus.com. So these are all the examples like how an a suspicious newly registered domain have come into existence. So these are all the domains that are connected to the C2C service, which is called as a command and control service. So there they started using
Hi, we are not able to hear anything. Is there anyone? Hello?
Phone was here. We are unable to hear anything.
Yeah, no voice.
Okay, let me check. Let me check.
No
Vinod,
audio.
can you hear us? Vinod, we are not
I
able to
can hear
hear
you.
you.
I can hear you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible now.
From
I
last
think
5-10 minutes, we are not able to hear anything.
maybe I think who Swati, you need to check out somebody who would have muted. Uh, but
Uh-huh.
I didn't mute because I was running through the presentation. Please check.
Vinod, I think we are able to hear you now. Yes, you can present now.
So I think this slide it was
Yeah,
okay,
this
right?
is the one. This is the one.
I think you please be careful. Like somebody has muted my mic. Sorry, please look at it. So we were discussing about the malicious newly registered domains that we have. So these are all the extensions with the top level of domains that are basically created and used for the illegitimate campaign. So it is identified that around 3,000 to 4,000 cybersecurity complaints each day are identified on the IP tree, which is referred as an Internet Crime Control Center. So I would suggest attendees, whoever is not familiar with IC3, read about IC3 on Google. So IC3 is a federal organization which actually across the globe. So wherever there is a fraud, usually we can report compliance with IC3, and IC3 will look into it and try to do whatever the needful they can. So in IC3, they were receiving in Internet Crime Control Center, they were receiving 3 to 4,000 cyber compliance each day related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So about 1,000 complaints on an average received uh, on only core onto the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is increased to the three times. So it is from 1,000 to almost 4,000. And you should know that this surprise to get blocked or the email filtering that Gmail does today, which is exponentially grown to the twofold, two times, close to about 100 million phishing emails they block every day. And during the last week, we saw 18 million daily malware and phishing emails are related to COVID-19. And this is in addition to whatever the 240 million COVID-related daily spam messages. So phishing is something else different than the spam. Spamming is nothing but an unsolicited email. Maybe there's the source of the mail may be legitimate. Uh, Still, we doesn't solicit the email, so it can be considered as spam. So phishing emails are something, a disguised emails which are with a malicious intent targeted, and these phishing emails were sent for the COVID-19. So these are the sample campaigns that are there online. So recently, US has bailed out a lot of its organizations, a lot of companies in US with a funding called as an SBA funding, called as an SBA PPP funding. During the corona, whoever has lost a job in US, so to just to give them the support and ensure that they have at least a portion of one quarter or 2 quarters, depending upon the organization. So, U.S. government has given funding to the companies over there. So, the threat actors or the malicious threat actors, the bad guys, started using that for malware propagation purposes. They mimicked that particular SBA, Small Business Administration, PPP funding, as an one of the malware campaign and started propagating using the corona or COVID-19 pandemic as an spot for it. And then you find that COVID-19 related presentations related to how you have to safeguard yourself as a disguising as a mail from the World Health Organization. They started spreading this kind of malware campaigning across the globe. So that's one more method with which they actually started spreading the malicious code or malicious content into different endpoints. If you look at this, this is the common attack vectors used by the ransomware in Q1 2019, and this is the same way even today. In fact, is happening with related to some ransomware in 2020 also. So the attack vectors they have used is a zero-day vulnerability or maybe a software vulnerability that is there within the system, and 30% of the attacks related to the ransomware, like WannaCry is one of the well-known ransomware which has infected millions of computers across different parts of the globe. So, where whenever there is a ransomware attack happens on your computer, usually the computer system, all the files and formats would be changed, and they will display a banner demanding for a ransom of amount to be paid in form of a cryptocurrency. So they are propagated through the attack vectors like software vulnerabilities that are there and email phishing. And 65% happen through RDP, which is also called an SMB protocol. So, SMB protocol is often referred for sessions. Whoever is not familiar with the ransomware, I would suggest you to read about Blue exploit. So WannaCry is in Blue exploit, Eternal Blue exploit. So Eternal Blue exploit, where it exploits RDP related protocol, and then it propagates the ransomware into the computer. So having said that, what is the impact? What kind of impact do we have? The impact we have is earlier the structure of cybersecurity is defined through PPT as a model, where you have people and the process is defined and you have technology in place. So this is what it was before Corona. It was the people were there and people were defined within process and facilitated with the technology, so, to integrate as one system to work together. Whereas if you look at post the Corona or post 2020, the process which is in place already and technology is now subdivided into the on-premises as well as the cloud-based structure or remote working method. So where the people are working from home. What is the issue with working from home? Let's assume that you have you're working with an organization, and your organization is having 3 branches, and these 3 branches is holding around 15,000 people, 5,000 people at each place or at each facility. So it's close to about 15,000 employees your organization is having. So You have the centralized infrastructure of network as well as or maybe on-premises through cloud or could be a remote cloud infrastructure. Then you have SOC team in place, security operations center team. You have security incident and event management team in place, and you have a monitoring points are clearly defined earlier. They are defined based on the network architecture and the security architecture that is defined and that is deployed within the cloud facility. So maybe the firewall, maybe the IDS, maybe the IPS, or maybe the network elements like switches or routers and servers or something which are under monitoring. And whenever there is an attack happens on these servers and these routers, so usually there will be an alert that will be released and identified by the SIM security incident management team. And this is something which should be further taken up by the SOC team to remediate, do an detailed analysis and remediate it. Today, if you look at it, now the situation has changed. Now, technically, the 15,000 people have turned out to be a SOHO office, so small office or a home office, which is called because of work from home. So technically, 15,000 people is nothing but 15,000 offices at each one. And they have their own routers, they have their own bandwidth that is connected, and you're not sure whether there is a network uh, level security is implemented or not. You're not sure whether there is a host level security implemented or not. You're not sure whether the bandwidth, whatever provided, has a funnel to download the regular signature updates. Uh, The biggest challenge is, let's say, an ideal laptop provided to an employee is of i5 processor with an 8 GB RAM. It could be in 500 GB hard disk or maybe 1 TB hard disk. Now, with this, you have most of the bigger sales organizations have their own BOID platform in place where they basically identify what login, logout times and the activity on the particular laptop and to identify the work efficiency, productivity, to gauge the productivity. So they have their platforms which are in place. And these platforms will consume a lot of processing power as well as memory on the laptop. And now, additionally, while you work from home, this application of runs, BOID application runs on your laptop, and because of just the constant updation will be happening back to the servers, back to a centralized platform, which would actually impact on the work efficiency. Second would be like you're not sure, you don't have the control over the endpoint. You're not the owner of that particular network, what they're using at the endpoint at their home. And you're not sure what kind of an social engineering attempt or a phishing attempt that they may come across. Because the network is not completely monitored. The endpoint is not completely monitored. Though remotely you monitor it, there is a limitation for that because you cannot constantly hold the data from 10,000 or 15,000 employees. That means technically 15,000 laptops are the endpoint. So you need to hold the data continuously, identify and to analyze the data. So this has become a very big challenge, and this is going to impact on the business of production in the business process. So these are the major pressing concerns. They have one is the corporate espionage, and then threat to the employers. So corporate espionage is probably you never know um, how the endpoint or the employees of laptop was compromised, and maybe it might be you might have blocked the USB drive, but how much really it's completely tamper-proof with one person and what is that. The other methods taken somebody could use to exploit the using. There could be a possibility of employee opening and phishing email, or maybe not from the corporate email. Maybe he's allowed to use an external mail services like Gmail. There's a possibility that malware propagation take place. So work from home, as I said, is a biggest threat because it's a distributed network, and the entire paradigm was shifted from a workplace environment to the SOHO, small office or a home office environment. So technology administration, so having control on all the endpoints, uh, managing the endpoints is the biggest challenge, and it's a pressing concern for the organizations today. So that's beyond 2020. These are all the challenges, whatever we are discussing till now, and the attack vectors in cybersecurity, which is actually impacting. So major types of attacks that take place or malicious domain and malware, ransomware, phishing, and social engineering attacks. So in COVID-19, it's expected that close to about 1 million phishing mails have been sent to so from the sources like Sentinel, from sources like this IQ, and other threat radar organizations and Ponemon Institute. So these organizations have clearly observed the patterns that majority of the traffic related to the phishing or the ransomware attacks are generated from the darkness and the deep. So majorly from the darkness, like using the proxy tunnels, like the possibility could be there's a possibility of using a VPN tunnel between the endpoint and generating traffic. So they compromise the endpoint system and they use the system as a botnet. So the what's way ahead from here is to maintain the global uh, very good cyber hygiene. It's very important to have wash your cyber hands so, so that you're not going to get attacked by the ransomware. Cleaning your machine, maintaining the machine well intact is the biggest challenge today. What are the key steps of cyber hygiene? The key steps of cyber hygiene that are raise the awareness among the teams and warning them of some heightened risk of COVID-19 teams. So there are various teams that keep happening. So it is very important from the organization perspective to train the employees to ensure that these employees are well trained and they understand what all the threats. So they need to. It is very important for the organizations to make them understand, like life is no more before 2019, before Corona era, because there's a lot of change and uh, we have to work remotely and a lot of nitty-gritties that are connected and raising the awareness related to the information security and the cyber security is an important point that needs to be taken care. And then sharing the definitive sources, advising to how to stay safe and provide a regular communications on the approach your organization is taking on a COVID-19 pandemic. So it is very important to have definite a point of what is an defined sources of the information that the employees need to consider. What all those methods that they need to consider before taking up any advice related to COVID-19. That's what has to be defined by the organization. And make sure you set up the strong passwords or password policy, and preferably add the two-factor authentication and for all maybe a remote access account, something particularly related to the Office 365. So it is very important because today the phishing attack majorly identifies. Yesterday I've come across a new malware while I was checking on the darknet. I found a malware by name Joker. So this is a new variant malware which is impacted on Android devices. So this around 27 different uh, list of applications that are infected, and this malware is already there infected on most of the applications in the Google Play Store. So this malware affects not only Android phones but also the other associated and connected networks that are there. So it will basically work as a Trojan and connects to each one of the endpoints, and from there it creates a botnet network. And this botnet network is being used to exploit uh, the legitimate resources of the operators. So it has a clear and out of 27 applications that got infected because of this Joker malware, uh, one of the malware acts uh, something uh, more notoriously in terms of it captures the SMS, the verification SMS. It will generate related to some financial transactions. It will, which is, let's say, example, your mobile number is connected with an UPI. So what this malware does is, so it sends a request to an illegitimate site, which uses a UPI for transactional settlement, let's say as a payment gateway. And then there is an verification code which is generated through SMS and which will be sent to your mobile phone. And without your notice, this Joker malware is recording that particular SIM number or the OTP generated and approving that back onto the app from which it has triggered the payment. So this payment gets processed and financially a lot of people have to lost their money. So that's something, and also it catches, it will copy the contacts and also the video and the images from the Android phone. So that's again something that is post-COVID. This malware has impacted in ransomware. The different variants of ransomware. Now these ransomwares is not coming up with any names like WannaCry or Petya. So these ransomwares are in a generic form, and they started attacking to majority of the systems. And it's also one of the key steps that needs to be initiated from the organization to provide the remote workers uh, a straightforward guidance, like how to work around with how to use the remote working solution, include make sure how can they remain secure and providing the tips identifying the phishing email. So phishing emails cannot be neglected anymore. So earlier there are uh, appliances which actually uh, stopping or which actually holding catching all the phishing mails that are coming through into the corporate network. But now as people are working from home, so they have an access of getting connected to any of the external mail servers, and there could be a fair chance somebody might get lured to open the phishing email and click on the package which might infect the machine. So it's not just infecting that machine then an infection or the why a malware that got impacted on that particular machine can be spread to the other machines which are connected to the corporate network to with the work from home solution. So that's something which is concerning most of the people should. And it is very important and one more key step to ensure that all the provided laptops have to have an up-to-date antivirus. So in this case, as we discussed earlier, it is very important to have the internet, appropriate internet and bandwidth, sizable bandwidth, because if they don't have the sizable bandwidth, it might not be possible to download the patches, operating system patches, security patches, or maybe update of the from the heuristic database of antivirus to get the signatures update from the heuristic database of antivirus. Maybe updating the firewall software, upgrading the firmware may not be possible unless they have a decent amount of internet. It's also important at this stage to run an helpline or an online chat service for internal to meet the internal SLA service level agreement or to meet the concerns to attend the concerns of the employer. So ensure that corporate cyber hygiene is maintained You need to have an internal help desk that should be in place. And also, over and above, it is very important to harden the system. There should be a practice of hardening the system periodically, which should be in an automated mode. So remotely, the laptops need to be checked and within a specified time interval and identify uh, the shortfall, security shortfalls. And it is also important to encrypt the disk on the laptop, because in any case, if the security gets compromised, maybe the laptop uh, is stolen. In such cases, the data is completely secure, so we encrypt it. And disable the USB drives, avoid the risk of the malware, and offering the employees an alternate way of transferring the data. So that's what are very important. Could be using the cloud storage. So what is the way forward as we move forward from 2020, from this corona in this corona era? So in a broader vision, how to set forth security in places to have uh, leaders of the organization to understand and set expectations related to cyber risk management and provide cyber risk awareness. And it is very important for the leadership or the directors, maybe the C-level employees of the organization, given the pulse of emerging threats in event of COVID-19. And it is very important to closely monitor such cyber risk matters pertinent to their concerned business area. It could be an BFSI sector, it could be related to the healthcare sector. So it is very important to have the specific information related to the threat or related to the attack, whether that is going to impact their domain or not. And it is very important, as we discussed earlier, to continue to train the employees and formal cyber training whenever they are boarded. So, like it is expected to refresh. Now it's time to push your training modules toward the remote channels and mobile devices. So it cannot be a lengthy training method because it is no more an instructor-led training program. So the micro training modules and the gamification methods can be used to train the employees so that we can bring the cyber awareness. So unique methods need to be taught by the leaders in terms of bringing the awareness, uh, how to handle and how to do a safe work from home as a practice. And getting in touch with to reinforce your cultural priorities. And it is very important to maintain a constant communication from appropriate points, like the leaders of the organization, to the directors, to the C-level employees. And it is very important for the HR resources to maintain a constant communication with the internal sources and keep updating them about the security policies. And it is also important to revisit your vision. As, you have a long-term and short-term and long-term visions that are defined by the organization. So it is very important for the board, for the leaders, for the C-level employees, for the management to uh, relook at the vision with what exactly the plan they have started here, maybe what all the plans they have in terms of delivery, whether they can be met or not, what kind of cyber risk awareness or practices that are in place, and what all the possible uh, chances of getting impact because of the cyber attacks need to be gauged. So in this context, it is very important to revisit the vision or the overall target of the organization and reward the desired behavior. So whoever, it is very important, like how earlier within the organizations, the performers are identified and were rewarded, and they have been felicitated within the organization. To promote and bring the awareness and strengthen the organization, it is very important to train the employees as well as to reward the employees, whoever uh, practicing, adapting the best practices that are stipulated by the management. So This basically brings down the kind of steps that cybersecurity cyber crime that may take place, and to maintain proper cybersecurity across the organization. So with this, I conclude the session. So if you have any questions, do let me know from the chat window, whatever it is. And thanks a lot for giving the opportunity.